Right, well, good morning. Welcome to the Finance and Property Committee, 17th of June, 10 a.m. First item is apologies for absence, and I think we have them from
Councillors Carr and Howard.
Councillors Carr and Howard. Item 2 is the confirmation of the minutes of the meeting held on the 13th of May. 2 points to this, we'll do the minutes first, and then there's a second part, we'll do the action points, which were in response to what we said about after minutes, we should have items saying who's action, who's supposed to be doing things, so we look at those separately. So the first thing is the confirmation of the actual minutes. Any comments on those? All good?
Yeah.
Everyone happy? So we then move on to the second part, which is the action point, which is the new idea just for the members of the public. We're now off the minutes. We are sort of making a note to say what minute, who said what, and who was going to actually do it. So for the next council meeting, we can actually refer back to it to see whether these things have been actioned. Perhaps we'd like to go through this.
I love them. So the first action point, item F136, was the new format of risk assessment being available for this meeting. Risk assessment is to be discussed later on the agenda.
Yeah.
£10,000 taken from 25-26 reserves, put into earmarked reserves. Yep, fine. Model standing orders and financial regulations are to be presented for consideration as soon as possible. I'm working on them at the moment. Full council to undertake a formal review of the risk assessment and statement of internal control during the year 25-26.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Cash card is obtained for Barclays.
Can we just stop on that one and get started? Just go from that.
Yeah, well, very quickly, I've reviewed these, and whilst I basically agree with them, there are some that need some small adjustments because of the excellent financial controls we've now got. There are certain issues here that, and I'll quote you one, failure to, what was the word? It was basically failure to pay inland revenue, and we had a very high likelihood that would happen. And I think that, no, they're all one.
Oh, they're all one, aren't they? Sorry.
Yeah, risk processes tend to get quite. So I just think it needs a quick, well, I have given it a quick review, and I think, for example, that one needs to be downgraded. There's a couple of others that I have also suggested we insert. One of them Dave's constantly talked about. And I think there should be a risk that failure to comply to freeholder obligations. So, for example, removal of asbestos in properties we own and things like that. So I've made those adjustments. Unless there's somebody here with sort of quite technical knowledge about risk assessments, I think I would like to suggest that you and I finish these off.
Yeah.
It's just a case of the wording change now in places.
And then bring it back to the next finance meeting.
If you wish to, I mean, it's not going to be changed that much. So,
No, indeed. I think that the loss of the clerk, I think, needs a bit of discussion.
yeah, we need, the loss of the clerk is saying here, for example, that the assistant will do it. I'm sure that she will. But if Tracy was taken ill for months, we couldn't really, and I think this is what the risk is here. It's not a couple of days sick, it's long term.
Yes.
That's right.
And I wonder if I've been in a situation like this before where Essex County Council paired with Hertfordshire, so if their chief executive disappeared for 3 months, Hertfordshire's chief executive was available for guidance and advice and things like that. Maybe we should do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's important to understand this is just identifying all the
As I say, this is not a wish
This
list.
is not this is just in case something actually backfires and we have a problem. Carrying on then.
Carrying on, cash card is obtained for the Barclays bank account, and I'm pleased to say that I should be receiving that within the next 7 days.
Oh, that's good.
Construction of an effective strategic plan to be progressed by full council.
Yeah.
So, yeah. End of year accounts are agreed. Yeah, the annual return's gone off, so everything's fine there. A subcommittee is formed from the finance committee to look at commercial aspects, i.e. leases, etc. So I believe we, as a finance committee, should
Yes.
form a subcommittee.
Do you want to speak to that?
Well, very quickly, there's a lot of the meetings I've been to since I've been here, and Dave will bear this out, I mean, we're into highly technical issues around leases and things like that.
Yeah.
And this is all to do with the legal side, and then there's also other conversations to do with the commercial side of it. And I just think that maybe that should be split off and people come back with recommendations rather than the whole council go through everybody's lease every time we. Because so often all we do is repeat what we said the last time. My view of this was it should be sort of, if I can call it commercial.
Yeah.
And it looks after the commercial interests of the council. And in the FCA, there was a clause which I've
Yeah, I'll just review
removed that.
Yeah,
And I think it should be used as so it should be the commercial team will monitor all issues relating to BTC assets and amenity plan.
Yeah.
This will include long-term tenancies, management agreements, short-term licenses, and any other form of agreement that is relevant to the stakeholders. So they're looking after our legal interests, and I think to put together with that, if we make it commercial, they can also take on the sales aspect of it.
So in other words, all the long-term leases, the licenses, agreements, all those sort of things should go to the subcommittee.
Yeah, and I think, and we put together with that, we might as well put the rest of the commercial side to it, so the sales of boxes and.
Have we got that down? Eddie, would anyone want to speak to that? Does it think it's a good
Just
idea?
that bit of paper I wrote for your benefit.
Right.
Says that's a list of the items that should be reviewed by the commercial team, other than the leases. So these are sales and.
Yeah.
So
So they're the extra.
So
ones.
Yeah, these are quite interesting. I could give this to Tracy so she can add this into it. But maximising interest gains, which makes obvious sense. Recreation grounds, any poor performances, collection of charges. The boat part, integrating proper software and improving marketing, because we can do plenty of that. Sales, tourist guides, prices and margins, again, all looking at maximising opportunity for the council to lower its overheads. Insurance, investigate premiums and get definite quotes. Asset register, we're talking about. Grants, investigating as much as we can, and community services. Refuse disposal, escalation. Community reserves, I've defined funds this. Community reserves of 10k as we've already identified, but the use of. Energy efficiency, we ought to be looking at that. Landlord improvements, which I think you've also mentioned. Development services, where we look at developments, supplementary, I know what Dave meant by supplementary, and financial efficiency, which obviously makes a lot of sense. So that can go into that as an addendum to that subcommittee. So if we agree that, do we need to form who's going to be on that committee? So,
Yeah. Because we're not going to go anywhere without it.
no,
And I would suggest that the chair of finance be one of the members.
Perhaps would it be a good idea to have four of us as that subcommittee? I think that would be good.
And maybe at the first meeting, we can write our own, what do you call it, terms and whatever it
Terms
is.
of
Yeah.
reference.
Terms of reference.
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah. So moving on.
If I just say, I think on that it should be the subject burst me lip.
Oh,
You're right.
Oh, yeah.
I'll come back in a
there's
minute.
tissues out there.
He was obviously very angry.
He was biting on it too hard.
It's because I was keeping him on it also.
Yeah.
Who's actually got missing?
Well,
You've got
Jean,
John,
John, Carl.
Harold and Kate.
I didn't get much sympathy from the crowd.
Brian's not actually on it then.
Something did hit then.
We've now burned it in bloody sunshine.
Oh, yeah. That's
Yeah, what I was going to say was it could be sort of like a bit of a floating committee. I think it'll sort of come and go a little bit and run on a sort of fairly flexible basis.
Yeah.
Not necessarily meeting it on the third or every.
No, as and when.
We can go and do a little bit of pieces.
Okay, well, we can get that signed off at full council on Thursday to get that formed, and then we can have a first meeting and go into
I
it.
think the formation has already been approved at last council, because this is a recommendation.
Okay,
So I think we could just go and do it.
yeah, well, we'll propose the four of us as
Yeah.
full council.
Okay.
Moving on then,
Moving on, so they're annual return related. Councillor Morgan becomes signatory to the Unity Bank account, which I started, but I need personal details, so I need to sit down with myself, please. Trevor Brown is appointed internal auditor for 25-26. I still to make contact with him, but I will do so. And the last item was the asset valuation policy will form part of the addendum to the model financial regulations. As agreed.
Good. Everyone happy with that?
Yeah.
So now we move on to the declaration of members' interest to receive any pecuniary or other registrable interest relating to the item of the agenda. If anybody would like to say that, if not, we move on. Everyone happy? Terms of reference, which we have here, which probably needs to be added to one item regarding this subcommittee.
Well, we cut out 3A in the FCA.
Yeah.
I think if we just change the name from SEA to finance.
Yeah.
Or it could be brackets finance subcommittee.
I think finance subcommittee would be a good idea.
Yeah.
So we can just amend these to that. Any other comments on these?
No.
Otherwise, fairly simple, I think. It just adds that. Everyone happy with that?
Yeah.
So we move on to budgets and financial reports up to the 31st of May. So this is for 2 months for April and May. Dave, you'll do such a great job of this. I'm glad I hope you would step us through it.
Is this where I need to circulate this one?
Yeah, that,
Yeah.
it's not, it should just be attached to this, it wish our confidence.
I'll pass through it on. I'll take Dave's that one.
Thanks.
So really, this was just a transition from last year to this year, we used the same formats before, which hopefully is acceptable. Just so that you know, all these figures, you press a button, or Tracy does, presses a few buttons, and vast amounts of information come off the software system. But it's not in a very understandable format, so this is just a simplified summary of what is on the software, but it's a bit more readable and understandable. So if you want a lot more information, there's an awful lot there. Some of these items, some of these numbers are there, have itemised, and they're on the sheet I've just dished out. Just gives a bit more detail of individual ones. And if I just sort of whiz through it, the bits of interest, I mentioned bank interest and rewards. I mean, we could set a target of £5,000 because we've got to have £170,000 in the account. I think at all times. I've got to check that, but
What do you think about that?
should really work on that. Recreation grounds income, last year it was a pretty poor result. I don't know how the collection of fees and charges works, but there's something not right. And so that needs looking at, which is, we'll put this on the commercial list that you just had a look at.
Yeah.
So that's important. The car parking, we put in the budget £16,000. Last year we received £19,000, but that's because the sun came out. So we've gone back in at 16 and hope the sun comes out again. So there's some wriggle room there, so hopefully we can do quite a lot better than that. So just try to show where the flexibility is. The beach hut sale, I don't know where we are with that.
I have been in, basically, there has been a little bit of interest, but they're not, there's nobody about to try it at the moment.
Okay. Well, it's got a year to do it, I guess. The boat park, unfortunately, the software system doesn't recognise prepayments as well as I hoped it would, so we've got to do a little bit of fiddling around. So we received just under £10,000 before the year end, then there's been more money received, but this has got to, that's an important, income, so we've got to do a bit more work on that. And also, as we mentioned, it should be marketed, because people want them well outside of the area. So,
Yes.
So that's how that works. The sales income, which did very well last year, it's going to benefit this year because we're having 2 tourist guides in this year, because it was late last year, so we get the benefit, financial benefit this year, and we get the same again for this year.
For this year.
Last year, this year is in one
Two lots, yeah.
and then we revert back to normal. So there's a bit of, we should do quite well there. And also, some of the charges and margins aren't right, which is what we talked about. So that's got to be looked at very carefully. The insurance, doesn't feel quite right, so I think that needs a bit of looking at, especially since we don't have responsibilities for the town jetty anymore, but we do have responsibilities for another jetty, so it'd just be worth having a look at that. So that's down on the list. Legal fees and consultancy are itemised on the additional sheet we just received, so it's an attempt to see where the £8,000 actually made up from the Haven and various other things. The transport and machinery, that's items 26 and 27, transport and machinery and maintenance, they are broken down in some detail on the sheets provided, and Terry is now going to get, he's going to get a sheet bit like this with his particular budgets itemised, so we break down for his benefit fuel and general maintenance and news on the allotments and all sorts of things. So he have his own sort of sub account, so he can manage that. That's better than in the past. Utilities, not to jump badly, the biggest utility we've got, biggest bill we've got in council is the water bill for the allotments and general irrigation, which is worth thinking about. Equipment and signage, that's number 30, that's itemised, so you can see what that is. Salaries, is always a worry. We've looked at NIC and all the increases in budget, but you don't know what, until there's a pay award, you don't really know where you are, and it's such a big item, it's always a bit of a worry, but we've done our best there. Then we'll get into community reserve, £10,000, which we agreed some months ago. We put that in particularly for possible policing, but we've now included that as a community reserve, and we interpret that in whatever way we choose. But that's why it was there, was when we had the for policing. Refuse disposal, that was mentioned on the list because towards the end of last year there was a sudden escalation in prices. And I know it's a pricey thing to do, but I think it's time we had a little bit of competition and try to hammer that a little bit.
Always.
Energy efficiency, we've got £2,000 in, better do something. We could manipulate that a little bit and maybe do the water. That's the biggest one. We've got a borehole, we could maybe get that working within that budget. It's a possibility. Landlords improvements, that's going to be dominated by the playgroup because we've got some work to catch up with. Development services, that's really, if somebody has an idea about some project, we might need a bit of funds to move it on a bit. It could be professional fees, it could be anything. So it's that's why that's there. And then the supplementary, that's just a list again, a list of itemised activities which we discussed with Terry, and he was quite happy with that. If you look on the supplementary sheet, it's got what we've agreed to do, although there's a bit of wriggle room because we've now received some 106 money, which goes at that front. So there's probably about 2,000 to play with. And we've also put first reserves in the event that we've got a bit of extra money to play with, which includes the board park. So that's the list of that. Just very briefly, the write-offs, just to make it the accounting easier, we've written off the playgroup, which is 2,300, but we've also got recharges for the same purpose of 2,073, and we've got one more month to catch up, so we're going to do that. Well, it's going to be better. Earmark funds, just a record that we've paid out 3,300 and we received £3,227, so that's neutral. And then the last thing is just to bear in mind that last year we had very little. It was a pretty rigid budget because we were trying to get the reserves up, as we are this year. But this time we've nearly got £30,000 of items where we do have some control. There's the communal reserve that we talked about, energy efficiencies, so they're categorised but they're not defined. So we can have a look and decide what to do. There's development services we talked about. Then I mentioned the supplementary bits and pieces, there's probably 2,000, a bit more to play with. So we've actually got some, we can actually start thinking about what we want to do and direction. And then more importantly, we've got £10,000 for financial efficiency improvements. So we do have now scope to, we've got some control and influence over what we're doing.
Yeah. Okay, well,
That's in a nutshell, that's it.
we did say on this committee that we would start to look at costs and maybe take a, like almost a subcommittee to have a look at the cost, but it wasn't an intention to have a look at 2 or 3 a month and then come back to finance and say if we can improve them in any way, take 2 or 3 items and look at them and come back as an item. Is that happy with doing that? I'll do that personally, I was going to do that.
Yeah, sure.
Well,
But I've got
That's what it is.
the lorry and the copy of the report.
you have?
Yeah.
Do you want to do that here? Or?
Well, the track is very simple, runs out in September. We're very fortunate that we've only had it for 4 years, and like the other truck, we've only done about 18,000 miles, so. And they have agreed to allow it for 1 more year, and in fact, the reduction is about a £20 reduction per month for hiring it. So we've signed up from September 25 to September 26, which is when we will need to replace it, because on leasing laws, you're not allowed to take it up to 5 years.
Is that lease 1 or lease 2?
These two.
Lease 2.
Shouldn't have lease one unless it's, oh, it might be there.
Yeah.
So that's that one, and the other one that you gave me to have a look at was the photocopier.
Yeah.
I got 3 quotes, and to be honest with you, they were all within pennies of each other. I think I found one that was £280 cheaper in the but they were, and it was a very good piece of equipment, Xerox I believe it was, but it was not, I think I sent it to you, didn't I? Yeah. To be perfectly honest, for £280, we might as well stick with where we are. I mean, the service has been excellent. I think the control of the costs of copying is much more in our hands. If you look at the copies, 66% of copies we print are coloured, which is 10 times more expensive than a black and white. And I think if we can sort of sometimes, you know, accept, as we are now, by the way, black and white letterheaded, it will significantly change. I mean, to give you an idea, a black and white is 0.4 of a penny.
Yeah.
A coloured one, if I remember right,
3.9.
so it's nearly 10 times more expensive.
So I mean, at the moment we're doing 4,256 black and whites and 8,860 coloured. So if we switch those round the other way somehow,
Exactly.
we will save.
That makes much more significant difference than actually finding a difference.
We'd probably get £200 a month saving.
Yeah.
On that alone. So are you recommending to us that we recommend to go ahead with the
Yes, I am.
Evolve thing as printed? Any comments on that?
No, I also use this company. In fact, I think I got mine and passed it over to Tracy and said, I found them really good.
Well, Chris, we were very blessed with Chris having some information on that industry, some experience, and he checked this out for us. And
The important thing going forward is always rent, because what the car industry had with, you know, grossing the lease, as they put it, it's exactly in the copying industry. People were paying 15% interest on their photocopies. We didn't realise that.
so will that happen fairly quickly? They'll just go and change over and.
Yeah, all we've got to do is instruct them. And we're actually changing over about 6 months before that one runs out.
Okay.
That was the trick. That's why he offered it, because he wanted to get in before the opposition. Because he kept on telling me, if we went somewhere else, we'd still have to pay 6 months.
Yes. Okay.
So in fact, actually, if we changed today, it would have been more expensive to do that.
Yes. So the meeting, Steady has just joined the meeting.
Graham, you're in front of the camera.
Pardon?
You're standing in front of the
Oh.
camera.
Is that my best side? Sorry, I can't stop long, but I'll see if you want any on that issue.
Yeah. All right, well, we're just going through the financial summary. Anything else on that, credit control or financial monthly overview, Dave?
That's me. Financial monthly overview, just to say, income for April was £161,304.04, and that obviously included the first half of precept. And expenditure during April was £44,096.86. And for May, the income was £28,053.17, and expenditure was £40,548.91.
Figures are in front of you. I mean, it's a pretty good, reasonable position at the moment. Not much has happened in the first 2 months, so everyone happy with that?
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, we move on to credit control.
And just to say, you've got the list in front of you. This does include some invoices that were raised in June, but I have written on the side, some have been paid. All have been chased by Julie this week.
Lots of boat parks.
There are lots of boat parks.
Sure.
There is one item which I have put being dealt with by solicitors, because that's for a beach hut, and sadly the owners have passed away. So that's down the hands of the solicitors.
Any comments? Okay.
Do you want to do Brian's item next?
We can just do, we can certainly do that if you wish. So Graham, I know you wanted to shoot off, don't you?
Yes, please.
So do you want to speak to your item, which is regarding?
Yeah, do really, it's just to take any questions on really. I think, as I pointed out, the 2 items have been looked at before, with Terry and myself. But the basic is now that the shelter has been covered by section 106 money, we can use the same suggestion what we had before, about remembrance packs. Then we can swing that money over to the basketball court, which we've got a proposal. And the other one is the lozenge, which is not on the agenda, but it's something which we have looked at. It just needs to be reconfigured, put a new dipping pond in, and open it up a little bit, because unfortunately people do get there at night or during the day.
Has Roger Taylor been involved in that?
Well, I know Terry does speak to him, but I'm not quite sure how much, because obviously Roger's been
He has been
incapacitated. But that's something which we can pick up on.
Well, we need a proposal on that. I mean, I think everybody would feel that the lozenge is worth investigating, and the pond
Yeah.
does need to be done. It's been talked about for a long time, but obviously we need a proposal and cost.
Yeah. Well, you know, if you say yes, then we'll.
But what does the committee feel about that? I mean, on the lozenge to start with, I think we just invite back further comment. Regarding the basketball court, can I just, I think you're looking at a cost of about £5,000 here, isn't it?
Yeah.
It seems like a rock amount of money. I would have thought for £5,000 we'd have to have 3 quotes anyway.
Yes, not.
That would be the first thing. Can I just ask, does it actually need to be done straight away?
Well, yes, in as much that if you've been down and had a look at it, it was done 3 years ago. Very similar scheme, it's the same pilot done 3 years ago. And we did raise money, we had a GoFundMe page, and we had other bits and bobs. I got the security fence was given for nothing. We got a lot of goodwill as well, people doing basics. But it is if you look at if you go on his website, he is sort of into that sort of thing.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. He does a good job of it.
Yeah. So yeah, it just needed a little bit of TLC. Really. I think obviously not now. We'll probably get the process in place, and then we'll probably be
We'll look at it.
September, October.
Look at it. Well, it would be a good idea to get this Lido shelter finished, because the work started, isn't it? It'd be nice to see that finished.
They've actually replaced the roof.
Yes, I didn't know they were getting it. It's looking great, so that's good.
And they're coming back today, I believe.
Good.
And they should be finished by the end.
And then once that's done, we really do need to have a system of how people can have a remembrance plaque put up there. And we need some sort of costing to the public how much a plaque would be, which would encompass the cost of fitting it, supplying it, and some sort of margin towards the council, so that we can use that margin to improve things. Yes.
I spoke to James Hills when he was in Sam Mick last week.
Yeah.
And I dealt with him before to say,
Yeah.
look, you reckon he had about 40 people waiting for plaques
Yeah.
and benches.
Yeah.
I mean, you can only do so many benches. can't you?
Yeah.
So, and he did say, because of local government reform, he said, well, to be honest with you, if you want to resurrect that idea,
Yeah.
because again, they were worried about data protection and couldn't hand on the details to us. But he said, it's okay with you, I'll send a letter to him, you will send a letter to everyone with this and say, we know, but contact town council, he's going to give me a draft copy of that letter.
Yeah.
For us to okay.
Okay.
And then obviously by that time we'll have all our costumes in place.
Yeah, but I think it's a great idea, the remembrance plaques, and I think it could be very popular. And we just need to agree how much it's going to be and what size they're going to be. And
Yeah.
so perhaps we could look at other councils, what they charge,
Yeah.
and then come back on the next committee meeting with a proper proposal
We've
for
got
the
the,
plaques. Yeah,
we've got the website of, he's handed us information on suppliers,
right.
and there's quite a lot what they do. Some of them are quite tasteful,
Yeah.
some of them are not quite.
Oh, I think it'd be a great asset.
So yeah, it's a matter of,
Yeah.
as long as you in principle agree, then we'll get it.
Well, in principle, we just need the proper proposal of costings and how it's going to work.
Yeah.
Which we can look at, come up for the next meeting, and that will tie in by that time, it should be almost finished.
Yeah.
And we got news to let know the public that we're going to be doing this. As far as the basketball court is concerned, I think we will need some more quotes, because I think it's that size thing. Can I just ask a question, would that be a 106 type of grant?
Yeah.
It would. So would we like to?
Can I just, sorry,
Yeah.
106 for that, for sure. And what about the lodgings reconfiguration? I don't really know what that is.
Well, again, the lozenge, you know what the lozenge is?
Yeah, no, there's the reconfiguration bit, I don't know.
Well, the idea is that the pond sort of leaks and it's not in the right place. They really like to move it. They need a digger and to proper line it and so on, because it tends to dry out. And they could make it into something rather attractive. And the lozenge needs a little.
Don't misunderstand, what I'm trying to work out is, do we do that ourselves, or do we have to go and get somebody to do it?
I think
In
we
the-
would need it.
Well, in the back when we first muted it, and Terry's probably the best guy, we were looking to do London clay in the bottom of the unit.
Yeah.
And we were going to get the nature network, because apparently you have to tread it in.
Yeah.
They're going to get the nature network in to all the volunteers to tread it in. But also we want to open that up as well, because unfortunately there is some, people do get in there in the evenings and there's some unsavoury things going on. So we were looking to maybe have little places where you can see in, to maybe act as a bit of a deterrent for people to go in there and burn the tables, for instance, is a classic. Burning the rubbish bin in there is a classic. So, we can must do.
So let's just go back to my question, are we paying for it out of our money, or
Well, nothing's been decided.
is this money coming from the donations that you talked about?
Can I just,
What things,
can I just say that when I did my horse trading session with Terry, the lozenge was putting in £1,500 and we couldn't afford it, so we knocked it out. But now, that's on the sheet that you've got, but if you look on that sheet, we allowed £1,500, exactly the same, for Paul's playground, which is subsequently being paid by 106 month.
Yeah.
So you could swap one over.
Yeah, so what we're looking for is a proper proposal, so we need to speak to Terry and come up with a proper proposal. But I think everybody in the town would like to see that improved, because it's a great asset to this town, and it does need a bit of funding.
Yeah.
Can 106 be claimed on that as well?
Well, if it's coming from that, it's coming from our money, so we don't have to claim it.
Right.
Well, I think you can get one, it's a community asset, people don't have to pay, so it's free.
Yeah, I think going back onto the 106 is probably picking up on that, use it before we lose
I
it.
don't know, I
basically.
agree, but the problem with that particular thing is then we'd have to get 3 quotes, because Christie will
Yeah, which,
will
We
increase.
can do that, no problem.
Terry was mainly concerned about the fence, I think.
yeah,
Yeah, well, and this is, you're highlighting security at night, and, it's such a problem.
Mm.
But obviously, we don't want to make the asset available for everybody.
Mm.
Are you happy with that?
Yeah, good, good.
Thank you, I know you want to share good.
Yeah, yeah. Just more good news, the digger is on the paddle board this morning.
We heard.
Good.
We're going to put photographs and we can put them on the website. And we can all write up.
What are they actually doing on the pad?
Just moving the sand a bit.
Okay,
Because
what was
obviously
the sound?
with the tides,
Yeah.
it's all pushed up now.
Yeah.
And we've got rid of the seaweed as